Hey BookTube, Chelsea the Reading Outlaw, and I'm here to do my August wrap-up for you guys. August was a crazy month for me, mostly because of the BookTube-a-thon. I managed to get a lot read, and it helps that I mainly focused on graphic novels. So as opposed to doing my normal format where I kind of go by category through what I read, I'm just going to start at the beginning of the month. I'm going to go to the end of the month. And I apologize in advance for not having a lot to hold up and show you guys. As I said before, it is just one of the drawbacks of frequent public library use. My stuff has to go back. So to start off at the beginning of the month, I listened to How to Be a Woman by Caitlin Moran on audiobook, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. This was a reread for me, my first time through, however, on audiobook, and the author read it. So hearing Caitlin do the British accent of her own that I was doing in my head in the book made it even better. I will say there were a couple of like pop culture references or store references that I didn't quite get because they were UK specific, but that doesn't have anything to do with the heart of what Caitlin Moran is saying, which is of course all about feminism and how to be a woman. And basically her motto and my motto is to ask the question, do men have to worry about it? And if they don't, then it's some bullshit. That's some gendered bullshit. So yeah, that's kind of just wrapping it up in general, but if you have not read Caitlin Moran, I highly encourage you to do so, especially if you are of the female variety, but also men. She's also just hilarious, so that doesn't hurt. Shortly after that, I read the first of the BookTube SFF books this month, which was The Martian by Andy Weir. I read this on my Kindle. I've had it for forever, and I just never read it, although I heard really good things about it, and it lived up to exactly what I wanted it to be, which was a fun, sciencey, science fiction romp in space. It bothered some people in the Goodreads group, but I really liked Mark Watney's voice as a character and the ability that he's able to keep a sense of humor and keep looking on the bright side, despite the fact that he's in a situation that, to be completely honest, would make me completely just lose my mind and probably shit my pants. He is stranded on Mars on accident, and he has to survive until the crew can either figure out a way to come back and get him or bring him home somehow, and it's just all about his adventures for doing that. It's coming out as a movie sometime next year, I think, late this year, next year, with Matt Damon. So that'll be super exciting. And those are the only two books that I managed to read before we went into the BookTube-a-thon, and I had an all graphic novel BookTube-a-thon by choice because I had a lot of catching up to do, and catch up to do I did. So buckle your seatbelt, kids. I got my little handy dandy notebook here, and I managed to read volumes 1 and 2 of Alex and Ada. Here's the cover for volume 1, and here's the cover for volume 2. And those are both by Jonathan Luna. This is about an android named Ada who is basically awoken by Alex. And it is in a future setting where robots with sentience have become kind of a problem to society. There have been a couple different terrorist acts. But there's like this whole underground network of people who are giving sentience to their like android companions. And so it's this whole question of like technology and a soul and ethicality and morality and all of these things, and it's super interesting. The art style is decent. It's very simple. It follows very simple color schemes throughout the whole, like each book kind of does a different color scheme, but the relationship between Alex and Ada is fascinating and only continues to get better. Then I read the 9th volume of Chew, Chicken Tenders by John Layman. And I don't really have anything to say about this other than I absolutely loved it, and I was kind of surprised to see it because I didn't know my library had volume 9. And it was just yet another contribution in the great run of graphic novels so far that is Chew. Then I read Why the Last Man Volume 1, Unmanned, and Volume 2, Cycles by Brian K. Vaughan. These were okay. I have and had some issues with the way that they are still portraying women, even, which is weird to say because the whole story is about like what happens when all the men die. So basically all the men would just kind of one day die, like everything with an X chromosome, except for this one man, Yorick. And so far the story is kind of his quest to get back to Australia, which is the last place that he knew that his girlfriend was. That's kind of what they're doing in the first 2 volumes. I have a pretty good feeling that like the general storyline will involve like why Yorick is the only man who survived, but we haven't gotten there yet. I don't know if I'm gonna get there. It's my library has all of them. It's one of those graphic novels I put it in the good, like it's good to pick up when I don't have any other graphic novels like left to get to, or when I'm at like a lull in all of my other runs, but I don't think I'll be putting it like right at the top of the list or anything. Unlike these next ones, I consumed all 3 volumes of Lazarus, which is those are all the trade paperbacks that are currently out. Volume 1 Family, Volume 2 Lift, and Volume 3 Conclave, all by Greg Rucka. I first heard about this over at PT's channel, and then I heard good things about it from Amanda Eagle, and then also from Caitlin at Kitty G, and by that time I was like foaming at the mouth to get a hold of it. They are so fucking good, you guys. They are so fucking good. It is about this, it's set in the future world where every family has a Lazarus, or kind of this like soldier whose job is to fight for and defend the family, and this is about the Lazarus of the Carlisle family, and her name is Forever. So in the first one's kind of all about the setup. The second one, we get more involved in like family drama, and in the third, we start to kind of branch out into this world and meet some of the other Lazari for these other families. So many like incredibly brilliantly drawn characters, and the graphic style itself is so like complementary to what's going on in the story that I was just absorbed, absolutely absorbed. The third one ended and I was just like, what just happened? It was absolutely amazing. I then also read the first 2 volumes of Morning Glories by Nick Spencer, Volume 1 For a Better Future, and Volume 2 All Will Be Free. And ended up falling like head over heels for these graphic novels, way more than I thought they would. I have no idea where that came from. I didn't even know going into them what they were about, but they are so many of the things I love. They are beautifully drawn. They are really strong lines, really strong colors. It's set in a prep school. There's like murder and other crazy shit happening to these people. And I have already got 3 and 4 set up for my September TBR, if not more than that, depending on how many I can get on hold. And I love it. I love it. I love it. And I was surprised by how much I love it. So let that be a lesson to all you out there who think you have to know what a book's about or you're not going to like it, because that's false. And then another contribution to the BookTube SFF Awards. I read the 2nd volume in Rat Queens, The Far-Reaching Tentacles of Ungroth. And I actually, unlike most people, liked the first volume better than the 2nd volume, although I still adored the 2nd volume. The 2nd volume pretty much literally leaves off right where the first one ended. There's really no like cushion time or explanation. Like if you missed the first trade, you are going to be a little confused going into the 2nd trade, but this one is definitely more plot heavy. There's definitely a bigger kind of picture at stake in this one, as opposed to the first one, which was very character heavy. I actually think that this is a series that relies really heavily on its characters, so I actually like the first volume better. But I definitely think if you're just looking for like sassy, spunky, as Elizabeth would say, badass warriors with thighs, then this is definitely a series for you to check out. Let's see. And then the next 2 that I read were Gotham Academy Volume 1, Welcome to Gotham Academy, which was cute. I don't really have much to say about it other than that. I'm not super big into like the DC Marvel canons and superheroes for graphic novels. I can feel your internet shame. It's okay. But I'm just not really a fan. So I thought this was like a cute kind of take on that. I didn't feel at a loss like I normally do with the DC Marvel universes, where I don't really feel like I know enough of the backstory or enough of the other universes or runs or whatever. I don't know how they all intertwine. I didn't really feel like I needed to know any of that with this. This was just really, really cute. The art style is really adorable. And so if the superhero, Gotham, Marvel, DC scene is your shtick, definitely check it out. I also read the first volume of Odyssey by Matt Fraction, Off to Far Ithaca. This is an in-space, Technicolor, gender-bent retelling of the Odyssey, And if that doesn't sell you, then there's really nothing I could do to sell you other than to say pick it up, because it's a gorgeous object. That's the reason I first read it. I saw it on Amanda's channel, and then Elizabeth read it from Books and Pieces. Excuse me. And just as an object of art, it's absolutely fantastic. I will say, if you have read the Odyssey, you're probably going to be a little bit lost as to what's happening. Then again, maybe not. Maybe you just don't care about what's happening and you'll kind of pick it up as you go. I'd read the Odyssey, but it had been a really long time, so I understood it, but I didn't really like understand it. I also didn't care, so let that mean what it will. And then, last but not least, I was able to get my hands on the second trade paperback of The Wicked and the Divine, Fandemonium. And oh my god, you guys, this thing blasted my brain out of my skull and onto the walls. I literally put this thing down and was like, what the fuck? What the fuck just happened? Guys, what's going on? What's going on? I was like turning to the people I work with, and like only one of them has actually even read the series, and none of them have, well, at the time, had yet read the second one. There are no words. I have no words. If you know what I'm talking about, then tweet me, because, oh my god. The first one ended, and I was like, that was amazing. There's no way they could top that. And then the second one ended, and I was like, oh my god, that was amazing. There is no way they can top that. So, we'll see how the third one's going. It's one of the only graphic novel series that I've read, I think, that I can remember, where every single volume so far has gotten 5 stars. First one, second one, doesn't matter. 5 stars out of the gate. Bam. So good. And then things slowed down a little bit after my graphic novel like binge. So that completes like the TBR specifically for BookTube. And then also this month I listened to a couple more books on audio. I listened to Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, which was interesting. It wasn't all what I thought it would be, especially for a post-apocalyptic book, especially for one in the science fiction category. But it was still really well put together, and I thought a really good example of kind of speculative dystopic fiction and turning on the ear kind of this storyline that you assume a dystopia will take. Again, I wouldn't necessarily put it super far on like the sci-fi spectrum, but it does have like a scientific premise, i.e. what happens after like a global super plague, and it's notions about art and art being what survives and art being what kind of unites humanity, I thought was just really, really, really well handled. And then I also read Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, which whatever. It was middling. I didn't really care. Selena Sardathian annoys me. Kale annoys me. Whatever, I think it's Dorian. I don't understand. I don't really understand. I just wanted a badass assassin story, and instead I got this like courtly intrigue story and whatever. I'm only reading it because the third one in the series is the October nomination for BookTube SFF, so in order to do that I have to read the first two. So I read the first one this month, which is Throne of Glass, and I'm reading the second one next month, which is Throne of Fire, Crown of Midnight. I remembered. Crown of Midnight. But anyway, and then so I read those two. And then once I finished Station 11 on audiobook, I switched over to Ta-Nehisi Coates' first book, Between the World and Me, which is a piece of nonfiction I personally don't feel qualified to talk about. I wrote the best review. It was an amazing book. It was an absolutely amazing book, but for a wide variety of reasons, I don't feel equipped to express myself on it verbally. I'll leave my Goodreads review down below. I feel like that's kind of the best I can do, short of just like reading that to you, because this is the kind of book where, as a woman, and as a white woman, and as a white middle-class woman, it took me a long time to kind of parse out what I wanted to say, and what I felt that I needed to say, and what I could say about this book, so I'll just link to that review down below. Suffice to say, I think everybody needs to read this book. Every person, I think, needs to have it in front of their eyes or in their ears. And then after that, I kind of finished the month, or wrapped up the month, reading Uprooted by Naomi Novik, which was another kind of like meh book. It was a little bit of a disappointment. I think, again, it suffered from kind of not living up to the expectations I wanted it to, mainly because I was told it was kind of like a fairy tale that had been twisted on its head, and I guess I didn't really see the twists very much, or feel the twists very much. So yeah, that's really all I wanted to say about that, other than lots and lots of other people read it, and I didn't dislike it, it just left me feeling kind of meh. So yeah, that I think, oh, and then I read a piece of short fiction. I read The Meeker and the All-Seeing Eye by Matthew Kressel. This was a September BookTube SFF read, but since it's super short, I just went ahead and knocked it out. It's a short story about a being called the Meeker, who is an alien who drives a spaceship for this thing called the All-Seeing Eye, who is this kind of omnipotent monster who eats universes, and one day they, through a series of events, run into a human and spend the rest of the story kind of trying to understand humanity and understand how humans work, and kind of draw the lines between being all-knowing and the good of knowing things. And it's really interesting. It's available for free on Clark's World. I'll try and leave a link down below if I can remember. And that about wraps up what I read this month. There was one DNF this month. I just didn't really care about Half a King by Joe Abercrombie. I literally got like halfway through it and put it aside in like the middle of the month, and I didn't pick it up again because I just didn't care. So that was the only DNF of the month. And yeah, that I think pretty much covers up the books I actually read in August. I will be back in a couple of days to let you guys know what I'm reading in September, and I hope you guys had a good reading month and are looking forward to the reading year ahead. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you around the internet. Bye.